This is Max and Mia podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Max and Mia podcast. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Rachel. We're really glad you decided to spend some of your time with us today.
Absolutely. So, Rachel, before we get into today's topic, I have to ask you something, and I think our listeners are going to relate to this.
Oh no, what is it?
Have you ever walked into a room, maybe it's a work meeting, a networking event, or a business dinner, and realized you have to make small talk with people you don't know?
Ugh, that is the most intimidating feeling. Even in your native language, it's tough. But when you have to do it in English, that's when the pressure really hits.
Exactly. You've studied the grammar, you know the vocabulary, but when someone walks up to you and simply asks, "So, what do you do?" your mind just goes completely blank.
It's so true. It's like your brain decides to take a vacation at the worst possible moment, and you just stand there trying to figure out how to keep the conversation going without making it awkward.
Right. The silence can feel so heavy. So, if you've ever found yourself in that situation, first of all, you're not alone. And second of all, today's episode might just change things for you.
Because today, we're talking about how to meet people in English. And we don't just mean the basics like, "Hi, my name is Rachel." We're going deeper than that.
We'll cover what you should say, what you probably shouldn't say, and some really interesting cultural things that a lot of people don't think about, but that make a huge difference.
And here's the thing, if you're at a B1 or a B2 level, this episode is designed for you. But if you're just starting out, don't click away. We built this in a way where even if you don't catch every single word, the context will help you understand what we're talking about.
And whenever we use a word that might be a little tricky, we'll stop and explain it. No one gets left behind on this podcast.
So think about this. When was the last time you had a conversation in English with someone you didn't know? How did it go? Keep that in mind as we go through today's episode, because by the end, we think you'll see that moment very differently.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's go. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. You're somewhere, maybe a coffee shop, a class, a work event, and there's someone you'd like to talk to. And the first question is always the same. How do I even start?
Right. And I think a lot of people make this harder than it needs to be. They're looking for the perfect line, the perfect moment. But honestly, the best openers are the simple ones.
Totally. And that's where small talk comes in. Now, small talk, let's actually pause on that for a second. Small talk refers to light, casual conversation about everyday topics. It's not deep, it's not personal, it's just a friendly way to connect with someone you don't know yet.
Think of it as a warm-up. You're not trying to become best friends in the first 30 seconds. You're just opening a door.
Exactly. And one of the easiest ways to start is using your environment. What's around you? Use it.
For example, if you're at a coffee shop and the line is incredibly long, you could turn to the person next to you and say something like, "Wow, this place is packed today, isn't it?" Simple, friendly, and it doesn't require them to think too hard.
Or if you're at an outdoor event and the weather is just perfect, you could say, "What a day, right? I wasn't expecting it to be this nice." The weather, by the way, is the classic go-to topic in English-speaking countries, especially in the UK.
Oh, in England, talking about the weather isn't just small talk. It's basically a national sport.
It really is, but it works everywhere because it's neutral, it's shared, and anyone can respond to it. So don't underestimate it.
Now, another great tool is music. If you're at a place where something's playing, you can use that. Something like, "Oh, I love this song. Do you know who this is?" It's light, it's fun, and it immediately gives the conversation somewhere to go.
And then there are compliments. A genuine, casual compliment can go a long way. But here's the key word, genuine. Not over the top, not forced. Something like, "Hey, I really like your jacket. Where did you get it?" That's it. Natural, specific, and it opens the door for them to respond.
Now let's talk about a few phrases that are really useful when you're just getting started. Rachel, what are some of your favorites?
Okay, so I love, "So, how do you know everyone here?" That one works really well at parties or events because it shows curiosity without being too direct. Another one is, "Have you been here before?" Simple, but it works. And if you want to keep the conversation going, "What brings you here today?" is a great option.
Those are great. And I'd add, "I don't think we've met. I'm Matthew." That one is underrated. It's direct, it's confident, and it immediately puts a name on the table.
Now, let's talk about something that makes a huge difference: intonation. How you say something matters just as much as what you say. Take this question: "What do you do?" Said in a flat, neutral tone, it can sound almost like an interrogation. But if you add a bit of a rise at the end, like, "What do you do?" it suddenly sounds curious and warm.
Same with "Where are you from?" If you say it with genuine curiosity, it's a great conversation starter. But if it sounds robotic, it feels like a form you're filling out.
So practice saying these phrases out loud, not just reading them. Actually say them and pay attention to how they feel.
Now, one thing we want to mention is that in a real conversation, you're not always going to hear textbook English. People use words that aren't in your standard vocabulary list. For example, in everyday British English, you might hear someone say, "Fancy meeting you here," which is a slightly old-fashioned but still very natural way to say, "What a surprise to see you."
Or in Australia, someone might greet you with, "How you going?" instead of "How are you?" And the expected answer isn't a long explanation of your day. It's just, "Good, thanks. You?"
In the U.S., you'll often hear "What's up?" or even just "Hey." Very casual, very common, and totally acceptable between strangers in informal settings.
The point is, don't panic when you hear something that doesn't match what you studied. Use the context. Look at the person's tone, their expression, the situation. Most of the time, you'll figure it out.
And if you don't, it's okay to say, "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you say that again?" People appreciate honesty, and it keeps the conversation alive instead of shutting it down.
All right, so to wrap up this section, start simple, use your environment, keep your tone warm, and don't stress about being perfect. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is connection.
Well said. And speaking of connection, things can get a little more complex when we start talking about cultural differences, because what's totally normal to say in one country might raise a few eyebrows in another.
That's coming up next.
All right, so we've talked about how to start a conversation, but now let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention: what you say after that first exchange, because different cultures have very different ideas about what's appropriate, what's friendly, and what's just too much.
And this is so important. You could have perfect grammar, a great vocabulary, and still make someone uncomfortable without even realizing it. Not because you're rude, but because what's completely normal in your culture might feel invasive in another.
Let's start with one of the biggest ones. In many parts of the world, asking someone their salary, their age, or their relationship status is totally casual. You meet someone at a party, and within 5 minutes you know how much they earn and whether they're married. That's just how conversations flow in some cultures.
But in most English-speaking countries, especially in the UK, the US, Canada, and Australia, those topics are considered quite personal. You don't ask someone how much they make. Ever. It's one of those unspoken rules that people don't always tell you about, but they definitely notice if you break it.
Now, unspoken rules, let's pause there. Unspoken means something that isn't said out loud, but is understood by everyone. It's an implicit rule. So nobody's going to hand you a list. You just have to know.
And that's exactly why we're talking about it. So, Matthew, what are some other topics that tend to be sensitive?
Politics and religion are the big ones. In casual settings with people you've just met, those subjects can get uncomfortable very quickly. It's not that people don't have opinions, they absolutely do, but bringing them up with a stranger is seen as a bit aggressive in many English-speaking contexts. There's even a saying, never discuss politics or religion at the dinner table.
And weight or physical appearance. This is a big one. In some cultures, telling someone they look like they've gained weight is just an observation. It's neutral, even caring. But in most Western English-speaking environments, commenting on someone's body in any direction is considered inappropriate. And honestly, it can really offend people.
Now, on the flip side, there are things that might feel strange to you but are completely normal in these cultures. Personal space, for example. In the UK especially, people tend to keep a certain physical distance during conversations. If you move in too close, even without thinking about it, the other person might step back. It's not rudeness, it's just comfort.
And eye contact. In many cultures, avoiding eye contact is a sign of respect. But in most English-speaking countries, maintaining eye contact shows that you're engaged, that you're listening. Too little, and you might come across as uninterested or even dishonest.
Come across. That's a phrasal verb worth noting. It means the impression you give to other people. So if someone says you came across as rude, it doesn't necessarily mean you were rude. It means that's how you seemed.
Great one. And here's another cultural nuance. The word nuance means a subtle difference, a small but important detail. In Australian culture, for example, people use a lot of humor and even sarcasm when they first meet you. It can feel like teasing, but it's actually a sign that they like you and they're comfortable around you.
Exactly. So if an Australian person makes a joke at your expense right after meeting you, don't take it personally. It's their way of being friendly.
In contrast, British humor can be very dry. Dry humor means jokes that are delivered with a completely straight face. No laughter, no obvious signal that they're joking. So you might not even realize someone's made a joke until a few seconds later.
Which can be confusing if you're not expecting it. I've definitely been in situations where I wasn't sure if someone was being serious or not.
We've all been there. And that's actually a good thing to remember. If you're ever unsure whether someone's joking, it's perfectly fine to smile and say, "Oh, are you serious?" They won't be offended. They'll probably appreciate that you were paying attention.
Now, one last thing on this topic. In the U.S., people tend to be quite open and enthusiastic when they first meet you. "It was so great to meet you. We should totally hang out." And while that sounds like a solid plan, it's sometimes just a warm social expression rather than a concrete invitation. It doesn't mean they don't like you. It's just a cultural style.
So don't show up at their house the next day expecting brunch.
Right, read the room. Which, by the way, means to understand the mood and expectations of a situation. It's one of those expressions that comes up constantly in real conversations.
So the takeaway here is simple. Be curious, be respectful, and when in doubt, follow the other person's lead. Watch how they behave, match their energy, and you'll be fine.
And honestly, most people will give you grace if they know you're learning. A simple, "I'm still getting used to cultural differences, so let me know if I say something odd," goes a long way.
It really does. Okay, so now that we've got the theory down, it's time to put it into practice.
That's right. We're going to do something a little different in the next section, some real-life role plays across different scenarios, so you can actually hear how these conversations sound in action.
Stay with us.
Okay, so this is one of our favorite parts. We're going to act out 3 short scenes, real situations where you might need to start a conversation in English. And as you listen, pay attention to the phrases, the tone, and how natural it could actually sound when you just keep things simple.
We'll step in and out of character so you'll always know when we're in the scene and when we're just talking to you. Ready?
Let's do it. Scene 1. A busy coffee shop, late morning. The line is long. 2 strangers are standing next to each other waiting.
Wow, this line is not moving at all.
Right? I don't think I've ever waited this long for a coffee, and I really need it today.
Same. I have a meeting in 20 minutes, and I'm already running late. Have you been here before?
A couple of times, yeah. It's worth the wait, though, trust me. Their lattes are honestly the best in the area.
Oh, good. That makes me feel better. I'm Rachel, by the way.
Matthew, nice to meet you. So, do you work around here?
Just down the street, actually. I started there about 2 months ago. Still figuring out the area, to be honest.
Oh, then you've got to check out the bookshop on 5th. It's a great spot to unwind after work.
And scene. Okay, so a few things to notice there. Matthew used trust me to add confidence to his recommendation. That's a really natural phrase that makes you sound fluent without being complicated.
And Rachel used to be honest at the end of a sentence. That's a filler phrase that adds a personal, candid touch to what you're saying. It doesn't mean you were lying before, it just makes you sound more open and relaxed. Scene 2. A house party. You don't know many people there. You spot someone standing near the snacks, looking a little lost. Hey, I don't think we've met. I'm Matthew. I know David from university.
Oh, nice. I'm Rachel. David and I actually grew up in the same neighborhood. Small world.
That's so funny. So you've known him for a long time then?
Pretty much forever. What about you? Are you still in touch with many people from university?
A few, yeah. We try to meet up every couple of months, but life gets in the way. You know how it is.
Totally. It gets harder as you get older, doesn't it?
It really does. Hey, have you tried these? I don't know what they are, but they're incredible.
Right? I've already had 3. I need to find out what they are before I leave.
Okay, quick note on that one. Life gets in the way. It's a really common expression. It means that everyday responsibilities and situations make something difficult to do. It's very useful, and you'll hear it constantly.
And small world, you probably know this one, but just in case, it's what you say when you discover an unexpected connection with someone. It expresses surprise in a warm, friendly way. People love hearing it because it creates an instant bond.
Scene 3. You're in a language class or a workshop or any kind of group setting. You arrive early and there's one other person already sitting there.
Is this your first time taking this class?
Yeah, actually. I've been meaning to sign up for ages, and I finally did. You?
Second time around. I took it last year, but I feel like I need a refresher. There's always something new to pick up.
That's reassuring to hear, honestly. I was a bit nervous about being the only beginner.
Oh, don't worry. Everyone here is pretty much in the same boat.
And that's the scene. In the same boat. Let's break that one down. It means that everyone in a group is dealing with the same situation or difficulty. It's a great phrase because it's reassuring and it builds connection instantly.
And Matthew used I've been meaning to, which means you had the intention to do something for a while but kept postponing. Super useful in everyday conversation.
All right, now we're going to do something we want you to actively participate in. This is your shadowing moment.
Shadowing is a technique where you listen to a phrase and repeat it out loud, copying the rhythm, the intonation, and the natural flow. It's one of the most effective ways to train your mouth and your ear at the same time.
So we're going to say 4 phrases from the scenes we just did. Each one will say it once naturally, then once a little slower. And we want you to repeat after us, out loud. Don't be shy, even if you're on the bus right now.
Especially if you're on the bus.
Phrase 1. I don't think we've met. Ready? I don't think we've met. Now slower. I don't think we've met. Your turn.
Phrase 2. It's worth the wait, trust me. Here we go. It's worth the wait, trust me. Slower. It's worth the wait, trust me. Repeat it.
Phrase 3. Life gets in the way. You know how it is. Life gets in the way. You know how it is. Slower. Life gets in the way. You know how it is. Go ahead.
And phrase 4. We're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. Slower. We're all in the same boat. One more time with us.
Now, here's something we really encourage you to do. If you want to keep practicing these phrases and work on your pronunciation, we have a full transcript of this episode available as a PDF. You'll find the link in the description.
Print it out, highlight the phrases that felt tricky, and come back to this section. Repetition is everything when it comes to sounding natural.
And don't just read them silently. Say them out loud. Record yourself if you can. It feels a little awkward at first, but it's one of the fastest ways to improve.
You've got this. Okay, we've covered a lot today, but we're not done yet.
All right, so we've given you the vocabulary, the cultural context, and even some real scenarios to listen to. But here's the part of the episode I personally think is the most valuable, and it's the one people talk about the least.
What happens when things go wrong?
Exactly, because they will. At some point in some conversation, something is going to feel off. You're going to say something awkward or freeze up or completely misread the situation. And the question isn't whether it happens. The question is what you do when it does.
And I want to start with something important before we get into the specific mistakes. Most native speakers are far more patient and understanding than learners give them credit for. The idea that people are secretly judging your grammar or laughing at your accent is, in most cases, just not true. People are usually just happy to be having a conversation.
That's such a good point. The pressure you feel is almost always coming from inside, not from the other person, which doesn't make it less real, but it does mean you have more room to relax than you think.
Okay, so mistake number 1, nodding along when you have no idea what someone just said. You're in a conversation, the other person says something, maybe they spoke quickly, maybe they used a word you didn't know, and instead of asking, you just smile and say, "Yeah, totally."
And then 10 seconds later, the conversation has moved somewhere completely different, and you're just lost.
Right. And the longer you let it go, the harder it gets to ask. So the fix is to catch it early. The second you lose the thread, just say something. "Sorry, could you say that again? I didn't quite catch it." Or even, "Wait, what does that mean?" People genuinely don't mind. And in many cases, they'll appreciate that you were paying close enough attention to notice you missed something.
There's also a softer version of that. If you're not sure you understood something correctly, you can reflect it back. For example, if someone says something and you're about 70% sure you got it, you can say, "So you mean," and rephrase what you heard. It confirms your understanding, and if you got it slightly wrong, they'll naturally correct you without it feeling like a big deal.
That technique is called checking your understanding, and it's actually something even native speakers use. It keeps communication clear, and it shows the other person you're engaged.
Mistake number 2, over-translating. This is the habit of running everything through your native language first before you speak. You think of what you want to say in your language, you translate it word for word, and then you say it in English. And sometimes it works, but a lot of the time the sentence comes out a bit stiff because the structures of your first language don't map onto English perfectly.
And it slows you down noticeably. There's a pause before every sentence, and that can create unnecessary tension in the conversation because the other person starts wondering if something's wrong.
Then a long-term fix is immersion, listening to a lot of natural English until certain chunks of language just become automatic. But the short-term fix is to lower your expectations of yourself in the moment. You don't need a perfect sentence. You need a clear one. Short, direct, and genuine beats long, complicated, and hesitant every single time.
Mistake number 3, over-apologizing for your English. Now, there's nothing wrong with a bit of humility. Saying, "Excuse my English," once at the start of a conversation is completely fine. But some learners apologize after every single sentence. "Sorry, I don't know the right word." "Sorry, my English is terrible." And after a while, it puts the other person in an uncomfortable position because they feel responsible for your stress.
Instead of apologizing, try reframing it. "Bear with me for a second while you think." Or, "Let me put it a different way if a sentence didn't come out right." Both of those are confident and natural without making the conversation feel heavy.
Bear with me is such a useful one. It means, please be patient with me for a moment. It's calm, it's polite, and it buys you a few seconds to think without breaking the flow.
Mistake number 4, trying too hard to sound impressive. This one is subtle, but it's real. Some learners, especially once they've hit B2, start reaching for complex vocabulary because they want to sound advanced. And then they use a word slightly wrong or in the wrong context, and it actually draws more attention than a simpler word would have.
There's a phrase for this: less is more, and it applies beautifully to conversation. The most fluent speakers aren't the ones using the biggest words. They're the ones who express themselves clearly and confidently with the words they already know well.
And mistake number 5, treating silence like a failure. In English-speaking cultures, a brief pause in a conversation is completely normal. People think before they speak. But a lot of learners panic the moment there's a silence, either rush to fill it with something half-formed, or they read it as the conversation falling apart.
Sometimes a silence is just a silence, and if you feel like it genuinely needs something, a simple, "So, what do you think?" or "Have you ever dealt with something like that?" is all it takes. A thoughtful question is always better than a rushed, unfinished sentence.
And knowing when to ask a question versus when to keep talking is one of the most underrated conversation skills there is. The best conversationalists aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who make the other person feel heard.
Making someone feel heard, that really is the whole point. Not perfect grammar, not impressive vocabulary, just genuine attention. That's what people remember.
Beautifully said. One more section to go.
All right, we're almost at the end of today's episode. And before we close, we want to talk about something that honestly matters more than any single phrase or vocabulary word we've given you today.
The habit. What you do when this episode is over.
Because here's the honest truth. You can listen to this podcast every Wednesday, take notes, do the shadowing exercises, and still not improve much if those are the only moments you're actively engaging with English. Real progress happens in the small, consistent moments you create for yourself outside of structured learning.
And we're not talking about big commitments. We're not saying you need to move to London or sign up for an expensive course. We're talking about tiny habits that compound over time. Compound means to grow gradually but consistently until the results are much bigger than they seemed at the start, like interest in a bank account, but for your brain.
The first one is passive immersion. This means surrounding yourself with English even when you're not actively studying. Change the language on your phone. Watch something you enjoy with English subtitles instead of subtitles in your native language. Listen to English music and actually read the lyrics while it plays. None of these feel like studying, but your brain is absorbing patterns and vocabulary the whole time.
The second is what a lot of language learners call thinking in English. At first, it feels a bit forced, but start small. When you're getting ready in the morning, just narrate what you're doing in your head in English. I'm making coffee. It's a bit cold today. I need to send that message. It doesn't have to be perfect. The point is to get your brain used to generating English without always going through a translation step first.
And you'll quickly notice the gaps in your vocabulary in real time, which is actually really useful because it shows you exactly what to work on next.
The third is having a conversation partner. This could be a friend who's also learning, a language exchange app, or even just leaving voice messages to yourself in English to practice. The key is that you're producing language, not just consuming it.
There's a real difference between understanding English and being able to use it under pressure in real time. And the only way to build that second skill is to practice it regularly. There's no shortcut around that one.
Now, we also want to say something about accents, because it comes up a lot. A lot of learners feel self-conscious about how they sound, and they worry it makes them harder to understand or less credible. So let's be very direct about this.
Your accent is not a problem. It's part of who you are. And in most cases, it makes you more interesting to talk to, not less. What actually matters in spoken English is clarity. Are you pronouncing words clearly enough to be followed? Are you speaking at a pace that gives the other person time to process? That's it. That's the whole standard.
And clarity is something you build with practice. The shadowing we do on this podcast is specifically designed for that. When you copy the rhythm and intonation of natural speech, your clarity improves, even if your accent stays exactly the same, which is fine, more than fine.
One last thing. Don't underestimate writing. Even though this podcast is about spoken English, writing in English regularly, even just a few sentences a day in a notes app or a journal, helps you organize your thoughts and reinforces vocabulary. And when your thoughts are more organized in writing, they tend to be more organized when you speak, too. It all connects.
Speaking, listening, reading, and writing. They're not four separate skills. They feed into each other constantly. The more you engage in English in any form, the stronger all of them get together.
And we know it can feel slow sometimes. Some days a conversation will flow and you'll think, I've got this. And the next day you'll struggle to find a word you've known for years. That's not regression. That's just how language learning works. It's not a straight line, and it was never supposed to be.
What matters is that you keep showing up. Every episode you listen to, every conversation you attempt, every phrase you practice out loud, it's all building something, even when it doesn't feel that way.
Especially when it doesn't feel that way.
Okay, and that's a wrap on today's episode. Honestly, thank you so much for sticking with us all the way to the end. It genuinely means a lot.
It really does. If you enjoyed today's episode or got something out of it, please leave us a like. It takes 2 seconds and it helps so many more people find this podcast.
And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. We're back every Wednesday with a brand new episode, and you don't want to miss what's coming next.
Share this with someone who's also working on their English. A friend, a classmate, anyone who'd find it useful. The more, the merrier.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
Take care, keep practicing, and bye for now.
Bye.
To keep taking your English to the next level, click on the next video or explore the others we've made for you.